No man is more professional than I. I am a 1% man. I am not above or below any man. I'm training my mind. I'm building my body. I'm connecting to my soul. I'm investing my money. Welcome to the 1% Man Podcast. Let's go. 3, 2, 1. I want to welcome you back to the 1% Man Podcast. I have my good friend Ryan Sullivan here with me. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, man. It's been a long time coming here, since I made the theme song too. I mean, we've been connected for a while before that, but
true.
Even to do that for a show and then beyond the show feels really good. So thanks for having me.
Right. So if not everybody knows, Ryan made the intro and the outro to our and he made the commercial too as well for our show. So our commercial we haven't even launched our commercial yet. We're going to launch that after we hit our 50th episode, which is, I'm kind of excited about that. We just want to build a little consistency. But, before we get started in today's topic, I'm going to ask you a couple questions, 3 questions, so the people can get to know you and then get to know you better as well. All right. So number 1, what's your favorite color and why?
My favorite color is blue. I think that depending on the shade of blue, it has a lot of different moods and tones to it. Like a light blue is a lot different from a dark blue. So
okay.
I just like the variation in the color because I'm an extremely practical person. But beyond that, I'm also creative. So I think that's just why, I don't know, I gravitated towards that color when I was little. I also have a color deficiency. So like I can't see some colors correctly, but I see blue just fine. So that's probably why.
Nice. Now, ocean blue is kind of my favorite zen. Like if I really just want to chill out, ocean blue is like, there's nothing like just looking at the ocean and then get a good like sunshine or even sunset. It's the most peaceful thing in the world to me. So yes, I agree. Blue is also one of my favorite colors as well. So definitely with you. What is one value you would teach all men in the world that would make it a better place for everyone? Do you believe, Ryan?
I think so. I was going to say discipline, right?
Okay.
But that's a very common thing to say because it's true.
Yes.
But I think experimentation.
Ooh.
Because I think a lot of people, and I think this is more important than discipline, to be honest, because if you don't try to find new things that you might get hooked on to be disciplined about, then you'll never actually be disciplined with really anything, right? So I think that experimentation comes first. That's what I would give to people.
I like that.
To every man in the world, if I could just, hey, try new things. You can do that. Yes.
I think that falls in line with being like a lifelong learner, right? Always trying new things, always learning something new. Never. I think there's someone that you can't learn with or even like learn something from. They're just boring, right? Because it's like they're gonna regurgitate something old that they've heard before. But to be able to experiment, try the new things, I think that's how we got electricity. That's how we have computers, phones. Everything that we love right now is because we tried something new, and that's how it came to be, right? Even starting your business, you probably tried something new, and that's what happened, right? Boom! Now you have a whole business.
It's true. It's true.
Third question: if you had to choose another profession to be an expert in, what would it be and why?
So many though.
Right. But you had to choose just one profession.
Okay, I'm going to choose my childhood one that I thought I wanted
great.
to be is an architect. I would try that.
Really?
My friend is about to like be a full-fledged architect and the work looks way too much. That's a lot more than I could probably ever handle, but I love houses. Like I just love different types of houses and like the structure and like where there's like a little room off to the side, like those little nuances. I always liked houses. I would always kids would draw like pictures, like I was drawing houses. So I just let's send it on the architecture. Let's do it.
So is that something that you want to get on, that you want to do later on in life? Maybe like being a developer or even like a real estate investor, or what do you think?
I'm looking at, 2, 3, 4 family home for my first home going into real estate. So yeah, something around that real estate kind of realm is probably where I'll find myself,
we would
probably
definitely
as a
have
side
to talk.
thing.
Yeah. I'm
good,
right here with you. I'm right here with you. Cause I agree. I think real estate is, there's something about houses, especially like a good modern house. You know what I'm saying? I'm a junkie for the ones on like Instagram that have like the nice patio with the view and then the glass ceilings, or I love a high ceiling with an island. That's my thing. All marble, granite top. Like, hey, I'm all there.
Cathedral ceilings, like a nice beam. Give me an old antique beam running through it. I'm good.
Now you're talking a whole new language. I need to learn this stuff.
My dad was a carpenter on the side, so I got to learn kind of a lot, like a little bit more in detail of those type of things, and maybe that sparked it too. But yeah, man, I like that architecture, design, things like that.
So let me ask you this then: what pushed you away? And, or you know what? Better yet, a better question would be: how did you get started in podcasting?
Great question. There's a couple different ways that I got started, because I got started a couple different times. But in the first time I got started, which now I tell this because people have asked me this question before and I didn't even realize it. I had to remember from way back. But even when I was in middle school, me and my friend Josh, he's somebody I've mentioned on podcast before, one of my good friends, and he kind of got me started into like content creation, YouTube. Like we were doing YouTube in 7th grade when like nobody was doing YouTube, but people were making money off of it, right? Like we saw these gamers making money off of it. We were gamers too. He got me into it. But we had a little podcast. I think we did like 3 episodes or something like that. Did it on YouTube. And that was that was like the first podcast. And then I kind of forgot about podcasts until I found Joe Rogan's podcast probably 7 years ago now, maybe 8 years ago is when I first started listening to his. And then I was listening to his for a couple of years. Then some kids that were on my soccer team talked to me about it and talked to me because I would tell them about podcasting. I was just interested in it. And I would ask them about it. And then they told me that they would be interested in listening to one if I had it or watching it. And so I was like, okay, cool. Let me try this. And then I make 2 episodes by myself in my room, like on this couch over here. And then from there, I ended up interviewing at this point, like 30, 40 plus people on that one. And that was my personal podcast that I still have. Then I built out my first podcast, which is like, I skipped a bunch of things in between there, but I built a podcast for a company. We did like 20 plus episodes. And then so that was like another 20, 30 interviews there that I did. And then I kind of got into making them. But that's kind of the trajectory, taking out some little details, but.
True. 100%. But just the fact of going from wanting to be an architect, I learned that. And then now, to building podcasts and building podcasts and having your own having podcast principles as your main business. Now you before the show, you told me it wasn't always that way. So what was the one thing or maybe a couple things that flipped the switch to make podcast principles now a business for you?
Yeah, so I definitely had some kind of entrepreneurial spirit, I guess you could call it, which I think a lot of people have or they do a couple jobs or see a few entrepreneurs and they are like, yeah, that seems like more my lifestyle. And I think I had that mindset a little bit, but I was very stuck in the kind of 9-to-5 mindset. Like I think having a 9-to-5 is great. I think it's a good thing ultimately for people. And says sometimes, can get a little frustrating and it doesn't allow you to grow, So I think having that and then being in that mindset, it didn't align like where I wanted to get to the next level. I was stuck in that mindset. So I just wanted to learn. And I realized mindset, whatever you want to call it, it's just learning. Like you just have to learn what the next step is all about. I was working at a mechanic shop, which I still help out at sometimes, do some social media for them. But I was working there. That's my other, occupation. And so the one guy who owns the body shop, he gave me the CD called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. It was an audiobook that I read it or I listened to it in my car every day when I was going to community college. That kind of got me in a mindset of, this guy had this rich dad and he had a poor dad. His real dad didn't know how to make money, didn't know how to teach him, right, the ways of making money. It's a very famous book. And then his rich dad was his friend's dad who would teach him all how to be an entrepreneur, real estate, how to run businesses and how to make money. So that story was like kind of the first little inkling I got of the entrepreneurship. And then at this time too, I was listening to Gary Vee. I go through all Gary Vee's videos. Like he's from Jersey, 20 minutes away from where I grew up. I'm like, damn, I love this guy, And so I'm watching him for 5 years, man, 5 years. And I still don't have a business yet. So I'm thinking what's the deal? Granted, I'm 20 years old, 21 years old, and I've been watching him for 5 years. So it's not like I had, it was 10 years. I was 40. I didn't have anything yet. I'm still starting, at still at the beginning, not even out of college yet. I'm still not out. I got a month left. So, but I was still at that turning point, and I met Gary Vee in person. And then we had a good conversation. He ended up posting me on his Instagram, and it was really cool. It was a great experience. And then I think after that, honestly, I kind of quote that experience as being the last one where that kind of just jolted me into position. I quit my corporate job that was part-time, full-time-ish kind of mix, and then tried to go for the podcast thing. But that's a really long-winded answer. But I think it wasn't just one thing. So I think it's important to touch on all this.
No, I love the points that you had. You're meeting almost like you met your mentor. You know what I mean? The mentor that you were learning from. You read a book that really started to shift your mindset as well. And then from there, you took the plunge and you quit your job and you did that. So did you, before you quit or anything, did you build a safety net or anything like that, or did you just go cold turkey and just quit and jump?
Well, I was in college. So in college, there's no such thing as a safety net. They don't teach you that. They don't think in college, you just max things out and you're like, hey, hopefully this is how kids think. They're like, oh, hopefully my parents send me some more money. Right. Like I didn't, my parents never gave me, they weren't sending me money. I had to pay my rent, all that, do everything. Right. But I think I did have a safety net for sure. But it wasn't going to last long. I remember there was two moments. There was a moment where, this is something that I skipped over before, but I interned at this music studio for free. My rent was $600 something a month, and which is not that bad, but still, I was interning for free because I didn't want to work my day job anymore. I said I'm just gonna intern and see what happens, and I wasn't making it.
$600 is like $1,000.
Yeah, and obviously don't, tuition, things like that, food, right? Everything. I was actually living at my parents' house and paying rent in an apartment because I needed to keep the apartment for when I had it at school. And so I wasn't even living in the apartment that I was paying rent for, and I wasn't making any money in my internship. So, and now the count is going down. You're like, oh man, right? And so there, my safety net was always so much. Then I got one freelance job. Then I got called in for an interview for another freelance job for a podcast editing position. I come in New York City. I'm dressed, got my whatever. I didn't even have a suit. I don't even have a suit, but dressed up, go to the thing, walk in. The guy sits down. He's like, yeah, so you want to edit the podcast? He's like, why don't you just do the whole podcast? Why don't you just edit and interview and book the people and everything? And I'm like, okay, all right, yeah, cool. So that's when I got a job. I could start paying my rent again. I was obviously paying my rent, but I could start living again. And then, so that was one moment where, safety net, but it ran out. Then the other moment was when I quit my corporate job. And that was after that. Following the corporate job is the podcast editing job that saved me. That's the job that I quit.
Wow.
Yeah. So that job saved me, and then it hurt me, and then I quit. And then, cause I realized I was stuck, and it was a bad job. It was just ended up being bad. I got stories about that, but yeah. And then I was at that point, and I had enough safety net because I was a DJ too. So that was my weekend job as a DJ. I made pretty good money doing that. So that was pretty consistent, but not in the wintertime. And I quit, I think in February, I did quit in February. So gigs were starting to come up. Right. And so I quit in February. Now I'm just, I'm tanking along. It's been a month or two, and bam, pandemic hits. No DJ gigs. I had 40. Now I have 0. What am I going to do? And I quit my job. So man, this podcast game better works, So, yeah. But yeah, that's kind of where I ended up in the business.
So I'm seeing, so there's plenty of times in your life where in a time of crisis, you pivoted, right? Or I should say in a time of experimenting, you pivoted, right? Where you said, this is what I want to do. You thought it over. The first one was about 5 years, right? Then you started the business. Then again, you were saying, this job, it's not the best. It's holding me back. Let's experiment again and let's pivot. So all these pivots and making this jump. Now, what would be your advice for anybody that's saying, you know what, it's enough. There's enough time invested. There's enough time of learning, of just reading all the books. And now they want to pivot as well. What would be your, your top 3 rules, or even your values that you would tell them, like, hey, this is what you need to do. What would you tell them?
You already mentioned the safety net, so that's priority, right? And with me, I still am almost done with college, but I was in a unique situation where my expenses weren't that much. I didn't have kids, family, all that. Obviously, everything gets elevated when you have, so many more car payment. Like, I was a mechanic, I always fix my car, like all these things I kind of had covered. But if I would have done it, or if I were trying to give people advice to kind of make that pivot, I would say have that safety net. And that safety net means at least a year's rent, probably two. And if it takes you an extra year to get that savings, that's well worth it. As long as you can justify in your head what you're doing it for, right? Because you got to know, like, when I go through, like, I still work hourly, and like I get paid pretty well hourly, but in my mind, I know that the hourly is for the next thing. That's not going to be hourly. That's going to be the investment. That's going to be whatever. So if you have to do the 9 to 5, save up that year or two rent, then you got to just know that that's what it's for. So that's your motivation to kind of, because things are going to get hard. You're going to be like, well, maybe I'll never start the business out. Your car, something happens with your car, $500. Like, there's going to be setbacks, but yeah, safety net, mindset is kind of bullshit, but I think mindset as far as,
Whoa. Let's go back there. Why do you think it's kind of bullshit?
It's like pumped up, it's what's the word I'm trying to say?
It's oversaturated?
I guess. And overused, overpopularized. I mean, just the fact you have to, like, you can have the best mindset in the world and they're just not doing any work. And then what's the point of having that mindset, right? So the only thing that mindset does, hopefully, is give you the self-awareness to know you're not doing the work. So,
oh, wow.
Because that's the purpose of mindset. The purpose of mindset is that you could actually do the things you have to do. So but you can do things and have a poor mindset and, like, still get things done. You could just feel bad about doing it. And that would be, I guess, a poor mindset. So it's too cloudy what the mindset really is. It's definitely good to work on it. I think you have to. I think as far as, like, your reactions to things, that's the number one mindset. That's the number one facet of mindset that helps me, is kind of reacting or responding versus reacting, and staying in the moment and those type of things. I think people think a little bit too, like, strict. You got to have this mindset is the only one that works. And it's just, everybody has a different, like, I know very successful people who are lazy, who, like, might not have the best mindset, but they're, like, millionaires, So it's like, does mindset really, and I have people who have great mindsets who they're broke, making millions of dollars, but now we're getting into the money thing. So it's it goes real far, but at the end of the day, just, I think the safety net, the mindset, whatever that mindset is for you, whatever you want to improve, just try to improve that. Don't think you got to get somebody else's mindset, and then just willingness to do the work, to embrace the fear and the uncertainty that's going to happen when you make it's going to happen. So,
the uncertainty is something that I think a lot of us fear, because we are such creatures of habits, right? And to go against the grain of what we've been taught for years, and to go against what even our parents have for us, or what everyone else has for us. What did especially, you're saying that you're living at home and you're paying rent at this place. What did your parents say, and did you take that into account?
Yeah, I mean, so my dad said, oh, you're going to go work at the shop this summer, meaning, like, the shop that I worked at. And I just wanted to say no. So I just said no. And then I said, I'll figure it out. And then, I kind of just kept convincing. And, like, my mom's kind of more cool. Like, she trusts me that I'm doing what I'm saying I'm doing. Whereas my dad's more like, really? Like, are you really? Like, how much did you make? So two different mindsets, both good, So, but I had to I realized, like, all right, I made that first, like, $80. I did, like, a voiceover, And I was like, okay, I can make money. It took me like a month to make $80, right? And then after that, though, I got the podcast job. Now I'm going into New York City, Manhattan, making podcasts on rooftops. And now my dad's like, okay. So, but yeah, I had to convince him for a little while.
Your dad's like, show me the money. Your mom's like, oh, okay, son, go ahead. I believe in you.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, no, that's kind of how, it's they are different. They're very different mindset. So, but yeah, I had to do a little kind of like, it'll work. Wait, it'll work.
And what about your network and, friends and people around you? Did that have to change as well? Or did you stick with the same people around you?
My best friends, like we're doing all separate things. So we support each other, what we do, but we don't see each other. We're not like embedded in each other's lives all the time. So my network did change. Like the people I interacted with all the time did change, which happens to everybody. Is the people that you're around, everybody goes places and then you're not around them anymore. And then you build this new thing. And a lot of times I found myself online and just, the people that I found on LinkedIn and the artists that I found on Instagram. I'm hanging out with artists because I was in the studio every day. I'm hanging out with artists a lot more. I'm hanging out with my roommate, who was a photographer, and we lived together for 2 years. So we did a lot of projects together, and he shot for me a lot. And, but yeah, my network got a lot larger, but my circle was very small. I didn't hang out with that many people, So that's probably what you want to do. You always want to audit your circle, but grow your network if you can do that, But yeah, not the same. I didn't always hang out with the same people.
I love the way you put that about audit your circle or grow your network. And when you say circle, just break it down, because I think people have so many different meanings of circle, and especially with Drake popularizing the term, no new friends in this sense. But that's not what you're saying, right? What are you saying?
Yeah, I think that your circle, it's not like your circle of influence. It's really your circle of friends. So your circle of influence is probably very large, the amount of people that you can kind of, show what they're doing, what you're doing, and they'll pay attention. But your circle, like your circle of friends, those are the people that you interact with, maybe on a daily basis, maybe weekly, maybe monthly. But they are kind of your OGs. Those are the people who stick with you. And you have to, I don't burn bridges, even with friends. If somebody does, there's just some people in your life that you might have to kind of start taking more of a distance, and not exactly because they're a bad person. It's just because what your values don't align. So you recognize that, that's fine. You can kind of, some people you get a little closer to because you want to see what they're doing, and other people you're getting naturally. Once you go closer to somebody else, you're farther away from another person. So.
True. I like the way you said that. Once you get closer to somebody else, you naturally get closer away from somebody else. Naturally get closer away from someone else. So I know our time is wrapping up right now, but I do want to ask you, this question that I ask everyone towards the end of the show is, so last thing, that you've probably had on your mind, or something that you have learned through your time this year. What is something that you would like to share with everybody else that you believe is important for everyone to hear that's listening today?
Ooh, I'm gonna say, I'm going back to what I just said, because I just want to reiterate this point, because it's just been relevant to me in the last 6 months. You got to know, and this kind of is a little more broad than your circle, but it's also what you see. It's also what you expose yourself to. So when you go on Instagram and you see all these people and they're going through their thing and they're going through their day and they just posted the dopest stuff that they did, and it's like, that's what you're seeing every day. You're watching a movie of other people's lives, 1 movie, 2 movies, 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever it is a day, of other people's lives. That's not good for your subconscious, your conscious reality, your psychology, your mind, your mental state. In little bits and pieces, I think it's good. And connecting with people like us connecting, messaging people, doing podcasts, commenting on people's posts, things that you enjoy. I think that's all great. But in the last 6 or 7 months, I've cut all my social media down to 15 minutes a day, other than LinkedIn, because that's a lot of networking. But that's just been something huge with me. Your circle of people, obviously, who you connect with and talk to, the people you give energy to, and then what you see, what you watch and listen to every day. It's just very important to like do an audit of that too.
Man, I think that was super powerful. I don't even need to come behind that. So Ryan, thank you so much.
Bertrand, thank you, my man. This was amazing, man. You did a great interview. I love your questions, man. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. So my brother, you heard it here first, Ryan. And before we even go, where can people find more about you and what you're doing?
So just search
and don't forget to throw in the music in there too.
Hey, I got you. Yeah, so I was going to plug that first. So if just go on Google or YouTube, anywhere, just type in Sullybop. That's SULLYBOP. SULLYBOP, Sullybop, every single platform. Anywhere you listen to music, anywhere you watch music videos. I got 2 music videos out. I got, I've been releasing music for like 5+ years now, live performances, events, all that. I've been doing that. So that's my art, that's my music. And then I make podcasts. If you need any help with creating a podcast from start to finish, titles, branding, logos, design, we got people for that. Audio editing, what I specialize in, video editing, I have a great videographer who I work with. So we kind of do all-encompassing podcast service as well. So I had to plug those 2 things. But that's where you find me. Podcast Principles for the business, and then Sullybop for the music, and that's it.
I'm definitely going to have you back so we can talk about the music and go deep down in there.
I'd love to.
Your journey is so interesting in music as well. You know what I mean? Especially being a white guy rapping is just like that alone is already interesting. You know what I'm saying? Because there's so much to talk about over there.
It's true, man. That's a whole podcast,
right?
Sometimes that hijacks. It's funny. I know we got to wrap up, but sometimes that does hijack the podcast when people they like ask me one thing and they're like, "What do you think about like Drake and shit?" And then like we start going off on a whole thing. So yes. You stuck to it, man. That's good. You stuck to what you had to stick to today. Good.
I had to.
It's hard, but yeah, man. On the next one, we'll get it on the next one. No issue. No worries.
Love it. All right. Until next time, my brother. Your legacy starts today. Thank you, my friend, for tuning into today's episode. This means so much to us over here at the 1% Man community. Now, we want to extend a hand of gratitude to you. So I have a free gift for you. All you have to do is go to www.the1percentman.com/podcast gift. This is an exclusive gift for listeners that tune into our podcast. So go over there, get that free gift as well. And now I have 2 simple acts of you. 1, hit that subscribe button and leave us a comment and a 5-star review, because that helps us to see what you love about the podcast, and that helps us to bolster up in the rankings so more people can find us and listen to this pertinent information that we have for men of today's age. Last but not least, I want you to go back and listen to this podcast. Find just one thing that you can implement in your life today so you can move forward. Remember, progress over perfection. And till next time, my friend, your legacy starts today.